Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Good Ideas webinar series focused on Houston's pre-K enrollment crisis. My name is Ellie Johnson, and I head Good Reason Houston's early learning strategy. I want to start by saying that we are especially grateful that you all are able to participate this afternoon after the storm we experienced 2 weeks ago. I sincerely hope everyone is doing well. We've been keeping Houston students and school leaders in our thoughts as you navigate the additional challenges that this storm has brought. In the midst of trying times, Good Reason Houston exists to accelerate public school improvement across Houston. We believe that every child in every neighborhood deserves access to a world-class public school. And today, we are diving in deeper to talk about the impacts of COVID-19 on pre-K and the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. Access to a high-quality pre-K program gives students the best start possible and sets them on the road to success in school and later in life. Pre-K is a pivotal year of learning for students, both academically and socially. We know from research that children who attend quality pre-K programs end up ahead. They are more likely to read on grade level by third grade. And when students read on grade level by third grade, they have a greater chance of graduating college and being career ready. As you might imagine, COVID-19 has created a new set of barriers to access for families who wish to enroll their child in pre-K. And these challenges are not unique to any one district or program. Districts across the state have experienced a 22% decline in pre-K enrollment this school year. That equates to over 55,000 Texas students missing a critical year of learning. At Good Reason Houston, we are convening 9 school districts serving students within the city of Houston, as well as bringing together a coalition of community organizations in the pursuit of our common goal of increasing access to pre-K for Houston students and families. Today, we are eager to gather together a number of our area's early learning champions to share their perspectives as we work towards a future where all 3 and 4-year-old children have access to an exceptional early learning option. We hope this conversation will further spotlight the challenges and opportunities local providers see ahead, as well as offer some good ideas about how you, your organization, and your network can play a part in the work. Joining us first in the discussion is Spring Branch ISD Superintendent, Dr. Jennifer Blaine. Jennifer has spent 30 years in education, with 20 of those serving the Spring Branch community. During that time, she has served in the following capacities: elementary school principal, area superintendent, and associate superintendent, before becoming superintendent of Spring Branch ISD in 2019. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer.
Thank you.
I'd love to get us started by having you take an opportunity to tell everyone on this call about what is happening in pre-K in Spring Branch right now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ellie. Well, currently our enrollment, to your point, is also down in Spring Branch. So we currently have about 1,500 kids enrolled in our pre-K program. We're down about 450 kids from what we would normally have, and we take that from about a 3-year average. Of those kids that are back with us, approximately 6% or so are still virtual, but the remainder of them have come back in person. And so we're grateful for that. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that later, the benefits of in-person learning, especially for a child that age. So that's kind of where we are in Spring Branch by the numbers. What we're hearing, well, I guess we'll talk about that in a minute, what we're hearing across the state, but Spring Branch is mirrors pretty much what's happening across the state. We're approximately at 77% of what our normal enrollment would be. And again, that's about 450 kids.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you mentioned this just a moment ago, but pre-K enrollment is a widespread issue. And we know that there's other leaders across the region who are thinking about this too. Can you talk a little bit about what you're hearing from your colleagues in Houston and across the state?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So across the Houston area, I don't have everybody's exact percentages, but it appears as though we have a range from 40% of a normal enrollment to 80%. And so we hover right around, I said like 77%, but definitely everybody is missing pre-K students. And that is about a third of our students that we did not have returned to us this school year. And I think it looks very similar across the city of Houston as I've talked to my colleagues across the state. I think it's the same. I believe the latest number I heard at the state level was the pre-K enrollment was about 78%, of what it normally would be. So again, we're right there with the state. And then even just to take it nationally, I don't have percentages or numbers for that, but when you read what's happening around the nation for school districts that have brought kids back to school, that's the grade level that the people are struggling most with.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to turn and just, I know we might have some parents on the call. So given our current situation, it might be hard for a parent to decide between remote and in-person pre-K. Can you give us a sense of what the benefits of choosing in-person pre-K are?
Absolutely. And it's young children, and parents will know this, those of us that have been parents and had children that age, they learn through concrete hands-on experiences. And so that it's very challenging to provide that type of an experience over Zoom or virtually. There's only so much the teacher can do because the teacher's not there. Um, and students, there's an academic impact to that. So it's the hands-on, it's the manipulative, it's the ability to interact with other kids. So there's the academic piece of it, but there's also the social emotional piece of it and learning how to interact with others. Of course, you can interact over Zoom. You and I are doing it right now, but it isn't the same thing as when you're in a class with other students. You're learning to share, you're learning to play, you're learning to articulate your needs. And you're just learning in general how school works. And it's just so important. And I just contend, and we've seen it with our own children, it's just not as effective, even close to effective, quite frankly, even though our teachers do a great job as when they're in person. And then the other piece of that is, the whole movement and activity, at 3 and 4 years old, you're still learning those gross motor skills and then those fine motor skills that will create that foundation for moving on into kindergarten and being successful as they move on through the grade levels. So a virtual experience for a student of that age is not going to be near as rigorous or robust as an in-person experience.
And I know for a parent who is making that decision to enroll their child in person, one of the things that might be on their mind is what does safety look like in a pre-K classroom? Can you talk a little bit about what safety protocols you all have put in place for pre-K students that are attending in-person pre-K in Spring Branch?
Absolutely. So in July, we brought students back in person on September 8th. And so in July, our board adopted our plan, which is called the Learn SBISD plan. And it's a portion of it is it's the academic plan and the safety plan. And, we were fortunate that we were able to work with a team and continue to work with a team of doctors at Memorial Hermann, Memorial City, right in our own backyard. They are wonderful and they have helped us with all of our safety protocols and they have proven effective. We have the data to back that up. But just some of the things that we do a daily health screener. So the parents help the students with a daily health screener that we ask a series of questions, want to know if they're feeling well enough to come to school. We do enforce masks and our kids have had zero issues at 3 and 4 years old wearing masks. They have been fine. In fact, they do it like a pro. I mean, we couldn't have imagined that they do it as well as they do. We've had zero issues. We have very stringent cleaning protocols, which we've always had, but we've added capacity to our custodial staff to be able to clean more frequently, especially those high touch areas. Students do not share manipulatives or materials, Unifix cubes or books, those kinds of things. Students have their own materials and typically they would share on a normal year. So we're doing that. We do have screens on the tables, plexiglass screens, so that students, when they're eating or when they're at their table doing their work, they have a divider between themselves and the student across or beside them. And then we've also restricted campus visitors. So we really try to keep the kids, and we do keep the kids cohorted. So whereas in a normal year, kids might cross-pollinate between classes, we're not doing a lot of that because what our doctors at Memorial Hermann tell us is that, to the extent you can keep the same group of kids together, the safer and the better off that you will be for spread. And so we've done that. And we do limit campus visitors. So campus visitors can only come on campus if they have an appointment, and that's probably going to be like a parent conference. And a lot of those we do via Zoom. So we really try not to have anybody on campus that isn't there on a regular basis.
Well, it sounds like you all are really talking to the experts and digging in how to make sure that this is safe for pre-K students. We know that enrollment is right around the corner for next fall, and so wanted to pivot and just ask you to what would you tell parents who are trying to decide whether or not to enroll their child in pre-K at all?
Well, so the first thing I would say, first thing I have to say is that we're actually still enrolling this year. So it's not too late to come, and we want kids to come. So if you're still kind of trying to decide even about the last couple months of school, we're still available for registration. Registration for next year starts the first week in April. But what I would say to the parents is we now have solid data that there's very little spread in our schools, and we've proven that, especially at the pre-K level. The students are safe at school, and I would contend that the students are safer at school than they may be at times when they're not in school, simply because we do have strict protocols. We do follow through with them. Our teachers are very consistent about how those are implemented, and so they are safe at school, and our mitigation efforts are working. And I would just say to parents, this is your child's future. There is no greater year that has a bigger impact on a child's life than pre-K. And it is a critical year. I cannot stress that enough. The academic piece focused or coupled with the social and emotional learning that they get as a pre-K student will set them up for success. And when students don't have that year, they are at a significant, they're significantly not solidly as solid as the kid, I guess I'm trying to say, that does go to pre-K. They're behind. And so it is very serious. And I would also ask parents to think, and sometimes that's hard because, it's hard to think past the year you're in or even past the next year, but parents need to be thinking about not just the pre-K-12 experience. So this isn't only about your kid getting solid footing through high school. This is about their ability to make an incredible living for themselves and their families when they grow to be an adult. Their ability to do whatever they deem they want to possible post-secondary is significantly increases, and the research shows that when they have that pre-K year. And so I would ask parents to think not only about what's good for them right now, and we know what's good for them now is to be enrolled in pre-K, but what happens to them as they matriculate through school and they cross that stage. Children who attend pre-K and have that solid footing and that solid foundation have significant more earning potential and a significantly perhaps different life than they would have otherwise. You can't replace a quality and a great education, and that great education starts in pre-K. So that's what I would say to a parent very passionately, because it is absolutely the truth and the research supports it. We see it with our own kids.
And I want to reiterate too, just, this is a community-wide issue. And we know that when young students don't participate in pre-K, it can often have broader impacts than just on that one child. Can you talk about what the implications of lower pre-K enrollment rates are for your district and on the larger community?
Yes, so we kind of talked about the academic impact, and that academic impact, to your point, for that one child also significantly impacts the entire Houston community. That's billions of dollars over time of either lost or gained income with that solid footing for the pre-K year. And I'll also say there's a financial impact for it for the child and for the larger Houston community. There's also a financial impact for Spring Branch. We receive our funding based on students who enroll in our system is basically how it works. And so we want to make sure we're getting those kids in our system so that we can access the funding from the state so that we can educate our kids to the highest level. So it's an impact for Spring Branch in terms of funding, but I would argue, and really important, is the larger impact on the child and on the greater Houston economy when students have that solid footing.
Yeah, and I think knowing those long-term impacts of low pre-K enrollment for our community at large, I suspect that some of our audience members that are here listening today may want to find ways to get involved and help find solutions to this crisis. What would you recommend for folks on this call today to do to help districts build back strong pre-K enrollment?
I think first of all, again, it's not too late to register for this school year, and we're starting registration next school year. So this is the perfect time to have this conversation. Um, First of all, I think we need for people to help us send the message that school is a safe place. That school is a very safe place, and your child is going to probably be safer at school than they are sitting at home, quite frankly, for a number of reasons. And that the most influential thing a parent can really do for their child is to get them enrolled in a quality pre-K program, read to them, and support those fundamental skills of literacy, numeracy, and social emotional supports. Um, and so anybody that if you're watching this and you know a family who has a pre-K student, we would ask for you to advocate for them to enroll their child in pre-K, or if they have an upcoming pre-K student, or if you just to spread the word. I think parents sometimes think about this in isolation. It's a year of school, and what's really the big deal, because we hear that sometimes from parents. We need the business community and anybody that's on this call or on this webinar to help us spread the word. This isn't about 1 year. This is about a lifetime of success and economic impact, not only for their own child, but for the larger Houston community. And then the last thing I would say is I would ask them to advocate for the media blitz that Spring Branch and Good Reason Houston has worked together, and get that out to our parents and to our families. This is one of the most important things. The business community, philanthropists, parents, community members, anybody who's seeking to help out with this is pivotal. It is important. It is key, and we need your help.
Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. And thank you for spending time with us.
You bet.
We are now going to transition to the panel part of our discussion. Thank you so much.
You bet.
So now we're going to take a minute to transition to the second part of our program today, our panel discussion, where we are going to talk to early childhood leaders from 3 local school districts. Joining us for this portion of the discussion are Ray Mondragon from Aldine ISD, Mari Martinez from Alief ISD, and Mariana Coronado from Houston ISD. Thank you all for participating in today's discussion. These first 2 questions that we have are for all of our panelists. Please start by introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about your role and why pre-K is so important. And we will start with Mari.
Good afternoon. Hi, Ellie, and thank you for inviting me today. I am the coordinator for the Early Childhood Department in Alief ISD. In my role, I work with a team of early childhood coaches, campus content specialists, as well as our pre-K and kinder teachers, and provide support, coaching, and training on early childhood best practices. We have 24 elementary campuses and usually serve about 2,500 pre-K students. And those were pre-COVID numbers. This year has been closer to 1,400, but as Dr. Blaine mentioned earlier, we're still enrolling, and every week we enroll more students. So those numbers continue to change. I also work with our Texas School Ready coaches who support the private childcare centers in our area. We meet regularly to ensure that there's an alignment between the support that they're providing the private childcare centers and the support that we provide for our early childhood programs. I also work closely with the early childhood transition committees at each campus, and they are the ones who organize the pre-K and kinder enrollment events and provide materials and support to families with early childhood aged children. And the reason why pre-K is important is because 90% of the brain develops by age 5. And it's important to make sure that we're providing as many opportunities as we can to our youngest learners by offering a program that is engaging and purposeful and playful. This is the reason why early childhood has been a district priority in Alief for the past 6 years, and why we're transitioning to full day across the district and building pre-K centers. We understand the importance of those early years and continue to work to ensure that we have a program that is developmentally appropriate and that supports all areas of development, including emergent literacy, or language development, early math skills, social emotional skills, just to name a few. It's important to us in Alief that we provide our students with opportunities to be curious and discover the world through hands-on exploration. In Alief, our pre-K program is offered to eligible 4-year-olds. And in this way, we're supporting our most at-risk students and offering them an early start in their academic career. And we're ensuring that they're school ready by the time that they start kindergarten.
Thank you, Maddie. Next, we'll go to Ray.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ray Mondragon, and I'm the Executive Director of Early Learning here in Aldine School District. Thank you for asking me to participate today, and it's great to have everybody who's joining us as well. Here in my role in Aldine as the Executive Director, I really look at supporting the quality of early childhood across the district and ensuring that we have high quality classrooms that are meeting the needs of our 4-year-olds and our 3-year-old students in the district. Also in Aldine, we have an amazing setup of schools where we have 12 primary schools that are solely dedicated and house our pre-kindergarten, our pre-K, and our kindergarten classrooms. No other grade levels are in those schools. So that gives us such a unique opportunity here at Aldine to really have a laser light focus on how we're supporting our youngest learners to get them first grade ready when they matriculate from kindergarten into first grade. So we really focus on how do we get our pre-K students ready to be kindergarten ready, and how to be ready for first grade when they leave kindergarten. And we also have some 3-year-old classrooms. We have a strong portfolio of different options for families to choose from in our primary schools, including Montessori programs, IB programs, and we also serve Head Start in Aldine. So with all that, bringing all that together, why is pre-K so important? It's so important because it sets the foundation for our earliest learners to be strong in literacy and math, as well as social emotional development. You put all of those together and you're going to come out with a student who is going to be strong and be successful in their educational career. And in addition to that, we are also committed to supporting parents, because parents are the children's first teachers, and for them to be strong advocates for their children as they go through their educational experience. So we wrap around the student and the families here in Aldine. And so with all of that, that is why pre-K is so important, to be able to make sure we are setting up the foundation for our youngest learners.
Thank you, Ray. Mariana.
Thank you, Ellie. Good afternoon. My name is Mariana Coronado. I'm an early childhood specialist in the Houston Independent School District, and I have worked in early childhood for about 15 years. Currently, we have over 11,000 pre-K students enrolled, ages 3 and 4. The early childhood team oversees the coordination and implementation of the pre-kindergarten programs across the district, including all the HB3 high quality components, which are curriculum, progress monitoring, family engagement, and teacher qualifications. And we also create and provide professional development and coaching for our teachers. Our department also oversees the HIPPY program that specializes on training our parents to be the child's first teacher at home, ages 2 to 5. We have a collaboration with 4 Head Start agencies at several campuses across the district. And lastly, we oversee the TSR grant as they coach childcare teachers across Harris County. And as far as why pre-K is so important, we believe that pre-K it's extremely important because, as research tells us, that it prepares children to be ready for kindergarten, to be academically successful, to graduate from high school, prepare them for the workforce and college, and to earn higher wages, among other valuable benefits.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you all for those introductions. Next, we want to give our listeners some context around the magnitude of the problem. As I said earlier, this school year, Texas saw an overall 22% decline in pre-K enrollment, and this makes this a statewide problem. Can you each tell us what were some of the challenges that may have led to this decline? We'll start with Mari.
Certainly. Some of the challenges that we've seen that are contributing to the decline in enrollment are that, for example, in Alief, when we started the school year, all of our students were in virtual classrooms. When we began transitioning students into brick and mortar, we started with the early grades, and pre-K and kinder students were the first ones back into the buildings and into face-to-face instruction. However, we still offer the option of virtual to those families that prefer this for safety reasons, and about half of our pre-K and kinder students remain virtual after we open our doors. Since pre-K and kinder is often the first time many of our students are in a school setting, these students need a lot of support in order to engage in a virtual environment, and also as they learn to navigate our learning management system. It's the first time a lot of them are encountering it. This means that the responsibility often falls on the adult in the house, and many parents can't afford to stay home or don't have the option to work from home to be able to help their children as they have to go to work. In some cases, the pre-K age students are having to stay home with older siblings who are responsible for their own virtual classes and won't be able to help their youngest siblings. So for this reason, we're seeing a lot of instances where families are opting out of sending their 4 and 5-year-olds to school because it just becomes more of a logistical challenge more than anything else. In addition to that, in-person school looks different than it used to. And so this makes parents hesitant to send their children to school right now because they know that they're not going to be going to school in what they know it's like the normal way, the normal school as they knew it themselves. And then lastly, other challenges that we're encountering have to do with concerns that parents have with regards to safety and social distancing guidelines in the face-to-face environment, as well as concern over screen time in the virtual environment. So Alief has spent a lot of time letting parents know how we're following safety guidelines in face-to-face, as well as how we have adapted the pre-K curriculum to make sure that children are not in front of a device for extended periods of time. And we've made adaptations to our curriculum that allows for parents to be able to follow it at home at their own pace.
Thank you, Mari. Ray.
Yeah, Ellie, this is a great question, and it's a question that keeps me up at night because wondering, we have so many students who did not come to school this year. How are we going to get them where they need to be when they return next year? But the big wondering is, why did they not come? And you know, in our looking across the district and talking to parents, you know, it was quite clear it was fear. They were scared to send their little ones to school. They were scared because of health reasons. They were scared of at their homes. Some of them live in multi-generational homes, that the fear of a virus coming from school because of their little one to other members that may live at home, you know, had another impact to just keep their child at home. And so for us, what we did here in Aldine was really pivoted so quickly to provide resources to families, especially all of our primary students, where each child was given a device. You know, we're proud to say that every child in Aldine, no matter what grade level they were, had a device, and we were able to, you know, in some way provide an educational experience, even if it was remote. And then we continued to reach out to families to let them know the opportunities at each 9-week, at the end of each 9 weeks, to go ahead and return back to school and be in face-to-face instruction. And so we're seeing that more and more of our schools and our students coming back face-to-face. But you know, as you put this regional problem, I just look at it as families were scared. And given their different circumstances at home, they just needed to wrap safety around themselves and their households. And maybe it meant keeping their 4-year-olds and their 5-year-olds at home. And then coupled on top of that, you know, we know that pre-K is not required. And unfortunately, you know, when that is known, then they think, well, we'll just send them to school next year. But we know what we need them this year, so we can make sure that we have them ready for what they're going to encounter next year. But we're ready to step up to however a child shows up next year to get them where they need to be at whatever grade level.
Thank you, Ray, for sharing all of that insight from what y'all are seeing in Aldine. Mariana, could you share a little bit about what y'all are seeing in HISD?
Yes, well, I agree with Ray and Mari. You know, there were so many concerns that parents already had. And so for us specifically, the pandemic really interrupted our plans to really advertise PreK enrollment. We had plans to host, we were planning to host 2 big in-person PreK enrollment events. And also our campus roundups that were highly successful in the past were not able to be done this year. And this, of course, caused limitations to in-person communicating with pre-K parents to address all these concerns face-to-face. Instead, the early childhood team created mail-outs and did social media advertisement, which, to be honest, did not do justice for parents to know the importance of sending their child to pre-K. And even though we offer virtual learning, the turnout was not enough. And I believe that it's pretty much for all the reasons that Ray and Maria already mentioned.
Thank you, Mariana. And thank you all for sharing those insights. This next question is for Mari. We've heard today why pre-K is such a critical year of learning for students. Unfortunately, research is showing that the largest learning gaps resulting from COVID-19 are being felt by our school's youngest learners. Can you talk about why that is the case?
Certainly. I think there are several reasons for learning gaps found in our youngest learners. One of the most important reasons is the reduction in playful activities, I believe. It is through purposeful play that our young learners learn and practice what they've learned. And students who are in a virtual classroom don't have as many opportunities to engage in this type of play. And even students in our face-to-face classrooms may have seen a reduction in those types of collaborative, playful activities that are usually found in our centers due to strict social distancing guidelines. In our case, we've been working with our teachers to find alternatives to the usual center activities in order to be able to continue to provide these playful activities. This is extremely important as you're able to address several standards through activities planned for a center. And if those are limited, then it creates those gaps in their learning. Also, play is how children make sense of their world. And if that is limited in the classrooms, then we're taking away the tools that they need to deal with conflict and with stress, which is very high right now. These are definitely stressful times. We can't expect children to be ready to learn if they're feeling the stress of what's going on at home or in our world right now. And by limiting those playful interactions, we're limiting how they're addressing those feelings. In Alief, our early childhood department has been working and collaborating closely with the counseling department to make sure that in our curriculum, we were addressing the social and emotional skills that have always been so important in pre-K, but even more so during these difficult times. We continue to work with teachers and making sure that we're providing those opportunities for our students to engage and play when the play necessary for them to make sense of it all. Another important area of instruction in pre-K and kinder is teaching foundational skills and oral language skills. For instance, when teaching phonological awareness skills, which are auditory skills that require students to look at the sounds that the teacher is making, it's difficult while the teacher is wearing a mask. So this is extremely challenging. So we've tried things like purchasing masks for our teachers with clear plastic around the mouth so students can see a little bit better, you know, when the teacher is doing a phonological awareness lesson. Also, the majority of our students are English language learners, and they benefit from collaborating and interacting with other children and the teachers in the centers, in the playground, while at lunch. So while these interactions may be limited right now, we continue to work with our teachers to make sure that we find ways for them to happen. We focus on vocabulary building that will help with their oral language development. There are definite challenges, but one of the things that we've learned to do this past year is to be creative and think outside the box to make sure that our students are still receiving the skills they need to be kinder ready. I think Ray used the word pivoting. And that's a lot of what we've been doing this year, just pivoting to make sure that we're addressing those challenges and trying to overcome them. And then lastly, something else to consider is as soon as in a virtual environment, maybe sharing devices at home. And because they may be the youngest in the household, then the amount of engagement from them is less than their older siblings. So that's something else that we're working on.
Thank you so much, Mari, for sharing. I think it's really interesting to hear not only about the challenges, but what you all are doing and the opportunities you see to circumvent those challenges. So thank you so much for sharing. This next question that we have is for Mariana. Mariana, what would you tell parents who are hesitant about whether or not to enroll their child in pre-K now for next fall?
I would tell parents that HISD is following CDC guidelines and has protocols in place to ensure the safety of our youngest learners in every classroom. As a parent, I would tell them that during these times of isolation with limited social interactions, our children need to be in school, whether virtual or in person, to build those relationships with other children their age and to develop other social and emotional skills, which are so important at this young age. And as well to prepare them to transition to in-person learning in the near future. So I can speak from my personal experience. My own daughter was in pre-K when the district moved to remote learning. And for her was a very positive experience to have friends and a teacher to rely on and give her some kind of sense of normalcy in this unprecedented times.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mariana. This last question is for Ray. Ray, we recognize that pre-K enrollment is a community-wide problem. What are some of the specific ways that folks on this call, organizations, business, community leaders can support pre-K enrollment efforts this year?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ellie. And that first part of your question where it says community-wide problem, I want to switch that to community-wide opportunity. And so what's our opportunity going to be to increase enrollment for our pre-K schools across Houston? And one thing that I've been thinking about is we can't do things the way we had done it in the past. This is a new time to do things differently, to look at new ways to reach out to families, to enroll families, to do our marketing. Let's be really innovative on how we're going to do this, because we're coming out of a pandemic that we shouldn't be doing business as usual like we did before. School should look different. How we do things should look different. And let's embrace that and look at this opportunity. So like, for example, some of the things that we're talking about here is ideas that we put out on the table is how do we really reach out to families? How do we go to where they are to get them to enroll, to bring them the information about pre-K in Aldine, and not just rely on, oh, well, we have a banner, or we have it on our website, or we send out a flyer. No, we got to do some new and innovative things to reach out to these families. We need to bring them in and invite them in back into our school community for them to see that our schools are safe and that we're excited to welcome them back and their child back at whatever grade level it is. And so thinking about outside the box and partnering with our community members, with our businesses and community leaders, and saying, hey, how do you know families in your organization? How can we partner to reach out to families that you know about, or in different ways? And so really, I'm excited about the opportunity that we can look at and how we reach out to families and our partnerships to do so, to increase enrollment and get it back to where it was in the past, in 2019.
Thank you so much, Ray, for sharing that. It's really exciting to hear how Aldine is leaning into thinking about new strategies for reaching families. So thank you so much. And
one example I want to share with you of what we're doing here. I'm sorry, I forgot, I was going to share this. So for example, we're starting our pre-enrollment next week on March 8th. Traditionally, everybody else starts it on April 1st. Well, you know what? No, let's start it earlier and let's start contacting our families. And the only reason we didn't start it on April 1st is because of income verification. Well, we'll do income verification later on. Let's get families in, let's get them pre-enrolled, and we'll work with them and set the appointments to finish the enrollment process. And so we're just excited about some of these new ways of doing business to enroll our students.
Ellie, and if I can just add something as well, because I also wanted to share that our district is going to have a virtual event also on April 10th for all families that want to learn more about PreK enrollment. So if parents are interested in getting more information about our program, our enrollment process, just be on the lookout for more information on choosehisd.org, because we will post links to this virtual event that will take place on April 10.
And I'm going to piggyback on that one as well. We will start pre-enrollment on March 8th as well, district-wide, and then April 8th will be our event for more information for families.
Thank you all so much for sharing. My next question was actually about open enrollment and what the enrollment process looks like. So I'm so glad you all took the opportunity to share upcoming events with families. Is there anything else that you all would like to share just to give people a better sense of what enrollment looks like for your district? What's the first step a family should take if they're interested in enrolling their child in pre-K?
I say visit our website. Visit our website. All the steps are there, and they'll be told exactly what they need to do. It's the process is completely online, and it's been like that for the past couple of years, so that hasn't changed. And then we'll just follow up. Registrars from each campus will follow up with them about paperwork that might need to be submitted, which can also be submitted digitally. They don't have to go in. But everything is online, everything is on the website. And if I may, just piggybacking on what Ray mentioned, one of the things that we've also done is thinking about it not as what can't we do, but what could we do, and what are some of those things that we were looking initially as challenges. How can we use them to our advantage? And for example, in the past, an event at night may have been tricky, trying to figure out the perfect time to do it so that families could attend after work, but also it wasn't too late if you have young kids and you wanted to make sure that they were fed and in bed by a certain time. And so by offering things virtually that you're recording and then making available later on, a family can determine, okay, that might not have been a good time for me, but I can watch this later once I put the kids to sleep. So just trying to take advantage of the circumstances.
Definitely. I think I agree with Mari, and just like Ray was saying, we're trying to reach families, right? So having the process being online and hosting virtual events allows families to have access to all this information, from home. So we think about that. And also, if there's a family that already has chosen a school for the student and knows, this is where I want to send my child to, they can also visit the school, and they will help them fill out the application online. So if you have issues, you're not tech savvy, or you're having issues finding the right information online or filling out the application online, feel free to visit your campus, and they will be very happy to assist you in filling out that application.
Great. Thank you all for sharing. Since we do have a little bit of time left, we received a few questions from our audience members in advance. So I wanted to open these up to our panelists to answer. First question was, how is your district communicating to Spanish-speaking families about pre-K?
Well, for us, every information that we have posted in our website, you are able to find it in English and in Spanish. Our events also will be delivered by, English speakers and Spanish speakers as well. So our virtual event will have a session for Spanish speaker families that they can come and ask questions, and I will happen to be there answering some of the questions.
And the same for us in Alief. All all of our information is posted and is sent home both in English and in Spanish. And then we have like all of the events will have for parents who speak English, parents who speak Spanish, in case sometimes we try to get more languages, but those two are always offered. And a lot of our family liaisons also speak Spanish, so they help us out as well.
And the same here in Aldine. We provide all of our materials in both languages and maybe other languages if there's a need for it, as well as host the same event, but at 2 different times, one in English, one in Spanish, or if it's a larger event, have people available to support people in other languages if it's needed.
Great, thank you. And this last question I have, I think we have gone through this and touched on it, but the question was, when is open enrollment and what does the process look like for your district? I know you each have talked a little bit about that, but can each of you just reemphasize again when enrollment starts and what the first step might be for a parent interested in enrolling their child?
So here in Aldine, enrollment will start on March 8th. It'll be done on the website, so parents can access the website and put in all their information. And then beginning in April, our registers at the schools will be contacting parents and inviting them to come to the schools to finish the enrollment process.
For HISD, we have already posted the information on our website. You can go to choosehisd.org, and we have all the instructions to upload your application, to submit your application, to fill out the forms, and any information that you need it's already posted there. And again, we will have our virtual event on April 10.
The same with us. Our Alief website will have all the information on the steps that the parents need to take. So they go into the Alief website and go into the enroll button that's right at the top, and it'll take you through the process. And once they've started that process, registrars from each of the campuses will call and contact the families so that they can come in and just follow up with them and how to finish the process. And our virtual event is we were starting pre-enrollment March 8th, but we will be holding an event virtually on April 8th at 5 o'clock.
Great, thank you all so much. And I actually just got a note. I have some breaking news to share with everyone on the call today. Texas school employees and childcare workers are immediately eligible to get the COVID-19 vaccine from all of the state's vaccine providers. So that is some great news for us to end on today. And that concludes our panel session. I want to thank all of you and Dr. Blaine for sharing their knowledge and expertise with us today. Thank you to all of our attendees for listening in. One way to ensure that quality pre-K programs are well funded through the state is to sign our petition at change.org/Texas School Funding. This petition is asking lawmakers in the Texas state legislature to preserve education funding this session. Also, please consider following PreK Houston on Facebook and visit prekhouston.org for any questions that you may have. Again, I'm Ellie Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next Tuesday for our Good Ideas webinar with Margaret Spellings, former Secretary of Education and current CEO of Texas 2036, as we talk about academic measurement during COVID-19. You can visit our website, goodreasonhouston.org/events to learn more and to register. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ellie.
Have a good afternoon.